Commander Vex-9 clicked his mandibles in satisfaction as he observed the newest specimen through the reinforced viewing portal. The human female sat slumped in the neural restraint chair, her dark hair matted with perspiration, auburn streaks catching the harsh blue light of the containment cell. "This one calls herself Emma Torres," his subordinate, Officer Crowell, reported while scanning his holographic datapad. "Captured during the raid on the human research vessel Meridian Hope. She's their chief engineer, apparently." Vex-9's 4 eyes narrowed with predatory interest. "Perfect. The High Council demands answers about their faster-than-light technology. This primitive should break easily enough." How wonderfully naive he was back then. The hegemony had conquered 17 star systems in the past century. Each species had eventually surrendered their secrets under the gentle persuasion of their advanced neural extractors. Humans, they assumed, would be no different. After all, what could these soft, bipedal creatures possibly possess that the mighty Threnodi Empire couldn't simply take? Vex-9 entered the chamber with the confidence of someone who had never encountered true human stubbornness. Emma Torres looked up at him through swollen eyes, her lips cracked but somehow still managing to curl into what humans call a smirk. "Let me guess," she rasped, her voice hoarse from the initial interrogation attempts. "You're the good cop." The universal translator struggled with the concept of good cop, settling on something roughly equivalent to benevolent enforcement officer. Vex-9's confusion was evident as his tentacle-like appendages writhed behind his head. "I am Commander Vex-9 of the Threnodi Imperial Fleet. You will provide us with the specifications for your species' quantum drive technology." Emma actually laughed. Not the broken sob of a defeated prisoner, but genuine amusement that echoed off the sterile walls. "Quantum drive? Oh, honey, you think that rust bucket we were flying had quantum drives? Your vessel traversed 17 light-years in mere days. Our intelligence confirms this." "Your intelligence needs glasses," Emma replied, somehow managing to look comfortable despite being strapped to what was essentially an alien torture device. That was just a modified ion drive with some creative fuel management. Nothing fancy. Vex-9's translator worked overtime on honey and glasses, finally giving up and marking both as untranslatable human colloquialisms. His frustration mounted as he activated the neural probe, a device that had reduced hardened Calarian warriors to blubbering confessions within minutes. The probe extended toward Emma's temple with mechanical precision. She watched it approach with the casual interest of someone observing a mildly curious insect. "Ooh, fancy," she commented. "Is that supposed to hurt?" "Because I've got to tell you, after 3 kids and a husband who thinks installing kitchen cabinets is a weekend hobby, my pain tolerance is pretty much legendary." The probe made contact. What happened next would be discussed in Threnodi military academies for generations to come, though usually in hushed, embarrassed tones. Instead of accessing Emma's memories, the neural probe encountered what could only be described as organized chaos. Her mind wasn't structured like other species they'd encountered. Where Threnodi thoughts flowed in orderly, logical patterns, and Calarian minds followed rigid hierarchical pathways, Emma's consciousness resembled a 3-dimensional maze designed by someone with a sense of humor and possibly a caffeine addiction. The probe tried to navigate toward technical knowledge but found itself lost in a labyrinth of song lyrics, grocery lists, engineering solutions for problems that didn't exist yet, random statistical facts about Earth's marine life, and an extensive catalog of what humans apparently called dad jokes. Vex-9 watched his expensive equipment struggle to process a memory sequence that involved Emma simultaneously calculating warp field harmonics while singing something called Baby Shark and wondering if she'd remembered to defrost dinner. "Having some trouble there?" Emma asked, noting the sparks beginning to emit from the neural interface. "Fair warning, my daughter's dance recital is scheduled for next Thursday in Sector 7 of my hippocampus. The traffic's murder this time of year." The probe retreated, smoking slightly. Officer Crowell consulted his datapad frantically. "Sir, the neural interface is reporting severe cognitive dissonance. It can't establish a coherent connection pathway." "Impossible," Vex-9 snarled. Every sentient species has logical thought patterns. Reset the probe and try again. Actually, Emma interjected helpfully, you might want to check your user manual. I'm betting it says something about not using that thing on a species that evolved from tree-climbing omnivores with anxiety disorders. We don't exactly think in straight lines. The second attempt lasted approximately 30 seconds before the probe began displaying what the Threnodi technical manual categorized as catastrophic cognitive overflow. Emma's mind had somehow convinced the machine that it needed to solve the engineering problem of how to fold fitted sheets while simultaneously composing a shopping list that included milk, bread, eggs, and possibly a new quantum flux capacitor if they're on sale. This is highly irregular, Vex 9 muttered, his confidence beginning to show cracks. Deploy the emotional resonance chamber. The emotional resonance chamber was the hegemony's most sophisticated psychological warfare tool. It analyzed a subject's deepest fears and projected them as tangible hallucinations. It had reduced the proud Admiral Korvac of the Centauri Defense Force to a whimpering wreck within hours. Emma found herself surrounded by her worst nightmares, endless parent-teacher conferences, a sink full of dishes that magically refilled themselves, and her mother-in-law asking when she was going to give her grandbabies proper haircuts. She sighed deeply and settled back in her restraints. "Oh, come on," she said to the illusions. "This is Tuesday for me. You want to really mess with my head? Show me a world where USB cables plug in correctly on the first try. That would be genuinely disturbing." The emotional resonance chamber, much like the neural probe before it, began to emit concerning noises. Warning lights flashed as the system struggled to process a mind that had somehow classified dealing with the DMV as a more traumatic experience than being dissolved by alien acid. Vex 9 watched in growing horror as his finest interrogation equipment systematically failed against what should have been a simple human engineer. His reputation, built on decades of successful extractions, was crumbling faster than his technology. "Sir," Krall whispered urgently, "perhaps we should consider alternative approaches." "No," Vex 9 snapped. "I will not be defeated by this inferior creature. Activate the pain amplifiers. Maximum setting." The pain amplifiers were designed to stimulate every nerve ending simultaneously, creating agony so intense that most species would beg for death within moments. It was considered a war crime by every civilized species in the galaxy. Emma gritted her teeth as the device activated. For exactly 3 seconds, she looked genuinely uncomfortable. Then, impossibly, she began to adapt. "Okay, that's actually pretty intense," she admitted, her voice strained but not broken. "Reminds me of my first marathon. Mile 22 was a real character builder." She paused, considering the sensation with the analytical mind of an engineer. "You know what? This is actually giving me some interesting ideas about nerve conduction efficiency. Have you considered using a variable frequency approach instead of constant amplitude? You'd probably get better penetration with less power consumption." Vex 9 stared at her in absolute bewilderment. The pain amplifiers were operating at settings that should have rendered her unconscious. Instead, she was offering technical improvements. Are you critiquing our torture methods?" he asked weakly. "Well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to do something, you might as well do it right. This whole setup is pretty inefficient. You're wasting probably 60% of your energy output through poor targeting algorithms." The pain amplifiers, as if offended by her criticism, began to malfunction. Smoke started pouring from the control console as the targeting system attempted to recalibrate based on Emma's suggestions, created a feedback loop, and promptly overloaded. In the sudden silence that followed, Emma looked around the chamber with professional interest. "Nice place you've got here," she commented. "Very minimalist. Though I have to ask, who's your contractor? Because whoever installed your electrical systems needs to have a serious conversation about surge protection." As if summoned by her words, the lights began to flicker ominously. The power grid failure cascaded through the detention facility like dominoes falling in slow motion. Emergency lighting bathed everything in an eerie red glow as backup systems struggled to compensate for what the Threnodi engineers would later classify as impossible systematic overload caused by human logic contamination. Emma Torres remained strapped to her chair, watching with genuine fascination as sparks showered from the ceiling panels. "Wow," she said cheerfully. "You guys really need to invest in some basic circuit breakers. This whole place is wired like a fire hazard waiting to happen." Commander Vex-9's 4 eyes darted frantically between his malfunctioning equipment and his impossibly calm prisoner. 3 days of interrogation had yielded nothing but technical criticism and what his translator insisted were humorous anecdotes about offspring behavior patterns. "Sir." Officer Crowell burst through the chamber doors, his breathing apparatus wheezing with panic. "We have a situation. The human's biosignature is somehow interfering with our quantum containment fields. The other prisoners, they're escaping." "That's impossible," Vex-9 hissed. "Biological entities cannot affect quantum field generators." Emma cleared her throat politely. "Actually, they can if you're using a Mark 7 hegemony containment system. Those things are notorious for quantum entanglement sensitivity. Any strong emotional resonance from a sufficiently complex nervous system can create interference patterns. It's basic wave dynamics." Both aliens stared at her. The universal translator worked overtime, finally spitting out something approximately equivalent to, "Emotional mathematics creates prison-breaking magic." "How do you know about Mark 7 containment systems?" Vex-9 demanded. "Trade magazines," Emma replied with a straight face. "Also, you left the technical manual on that table over there. I've been reading it upside down for the past hour. Fascinating stuff, really. Though I have to say, your safety protocols are absolutely terrible." As if to prove her point, another section of the facility's power grid failed with a spectacular shower of sparks. In the distance, alarms began wailing as more containment fields collapsed. Crowell consulted his datapad with increasing desperation. "Sir, we've lost containment on levels 7 through 12. The Calarian warriors have armed themselves with maintenance tools. The Zenthari pacifists have organized some kind of protest march. And the humans are, what? What are the humans doing?" "They're fixing things, sir." Vex-9's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Fixing things?" "They've jury-rigged the ventilation system in Sector 9, improved the food replicators in the detention blocks, and somehow convinced our security robots that they need software updates. Half our automated systems are now operating with human-designed modifications." Emma nodded approvingly. "That sounds about right. You give a human 20 minutes and some basic tools, and they'll start improving whatever surround them. It's compulsive behavior. We can't help ourselves." "This is madness," Vex-9 snarled. "Deploy the combat drones. Lethal force authorized." "About that," Crowell said weakly. "The combat drones are, well, they're asking the human prisoners for technical advice. Apparently, Private Jake Morrison used to work in military robotics before he became a cook, and now our entire drone fleet thinks he's their commanding officer." Through the facility's intercom system, a cheerful human voice echoed, "Attention Threnodi personnel. This is Morrison in Engineering Section C. Your drone maintenance schedule is completely backwards. I've reprogrammed them for optimal efficiency. Also, somebody left a coffee stain on Drone Unit 47's optical sensor. That's just unprofessional, folks." Emma grinned. "Jake always was good with robots. Give him 5 minutes and he'll have your whole fleet doing trick maneuvers and playing fetch." The facility shuddered as something large exploded several levels below. Emergency announcements in multiple alien languages began broadcasting conflicting evacuation procedures. "This is a nightmare," Vex-9 muttered, slumping against the wall. "In 3 days, one human female has single-handedly destroyed the most secure detention facility in the hegemony." "To be fair," Emma said helpfully, I had a lot of help from your spectacularly poor engineering standards. Seriously, who designs a containment system without proper feedback inhibitors? And don't get me started on your power grid architecture. It's like you wanted cascade failures. Officer Crowell suddenly perked up, hope flickering in his compound eyes. Sir. The reinforcement fleet has arrived. Admiral Thrakprime himself is aboard the flagship. Surely he can handle this situation. Through the chamber's viewing portal, they could see the massive Threnodi dreadnought Inevitable Conquest descending toward the facility. Its weapon systems glowed with enough firepower to crack a small moon. Emma watched the approaching warship with professional interest. Nice ship. Bit ostentatious with all those weapon emplacements, though. And is that a quantum lance array on the forward hull? Those things are notoriously unstable if you don't maintain proper field harmonics. The quantum lances are perfectly maintained. Vex 9 snapped. Admiral Thrakprime's ship is the pride of the fleet. I'm sure it is, Emma agreed diplomatically. It's just that quantum lance arrays have this tendency to resonate with Mark 7 containment field generators when they're operating in close proximity. Create some really interesting feedback loops. As if summoned by her words, the facility's remaining containment systems began emitting a low, ominous humming sound. The humming grew louder as the Inevitable Conquest drew closer, its quantum lances charging for what was presumably going to be a precision strike on the rebellious prisoners. That's not supposed to happen, Crowell whispered, staring at his frantically beeping instruments. Oh, it's not supposed to happen, Emma confirmed cheerfully. But it's definitely going to happen. You might want to evacuate everyone from this facility. Like, immediately. The humming reached a crescendo that made the walls vibrate. Through the viewport, they could see the Inevitable Conquest's quantum lances beginning to pulse erratically as they entered resonance with the failing containment systems. Sir! Crowell screamed over the increasing noise. The quantum field matrices are entering cascade resonance. If we don't shut down either the containment systems or the ship's weapon array, they'll create a feedback explosion that could destroy half the star system. Vex 9 stared at Emma in dawning horror. You knew this would happen. Well, Emma admitted, I suspected it might. Basic harmonic theory, really. Though I have to say, the scale of this particular resonance cascade is pretty impressive. You guys really don't do anything small, do you? The facility's automated systems began broadcasting evacuation orders in 17 different languages as the harmonic feedback reached critical levels. Through the chaos, Admiral Thrakprime's voice thundered over the communication channels. What is happening down there? My weapon systems are completely out of control. Sir, came a panicked response from the flagship. Our quantum lances are locked in resonance with something on the planet's surface. We cannot disengage. Emma looked at her restraints thoughtfully. You know, if you let me out of this chair, I could probably fix this for you. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward harmonic cancellation problem. Nothing a good engineer couldn't handle. Vex 9 stared at her for a long moment, then at his sparking equipment, then at the massive warship that was now visibly shaking as its weapon system spiraled out of control. If I release you, he said slowly, what guarantee do I have that you won't simply escape with the other prisoners? Emma considered this seriously. None whatsoever. I'll definitely escape. But I'll fix your resonance problem first, because watching half a star system explode would really ruin my day. Plus, my mom always taught me to clean up my messes. The facility shook violently as the harmonic resonance entered its final phase. Cracks appeared in the walls as the quantum fields began tearing at the molecular structure of the building itself. With the expression of someone making the worst decision of his military career, Vex 9 reached for Emma's restraint controls. For what it's worth, Emma said as the locks disengaged, this has been the most interesting interrogation I've ever been part of. You guys really know how to show a girl a good time. She stood up calmly, stretched like someone getting up from a comfortable nap, and walked over to the sparking control console. Her fingers danced over the alien interface with the confidence of someone who had been mentally reverse engineering it for 3 days. Let's see, harmonic frequency inverter, quantum field stabilizer, and, there we go. The catastrophic humming stopped so abruptly that the sudden silence was almost painful. The inevitable conquest's erratic pulsing smoothed out as its weapon systems returned to normal operation. How? Kral whispered in amazement. Phase inversion, Emma explained matter-of-factly. I just told your containment system to hum in the opposite direction. Basic engineering. She paused at the chamber door and looked back at the 2 stunned aliens. Oh, and Vex 9? Next time you want to interrogate a human, try asking nicely first. You'd be amazed what we'll tell you over a good cup of coffee and some donuts. Emma Torres walked out of the detention facility as casually as someone leaving the office after a particularly challenging but satisfying day at work. Behind her, she left 2 of the hegemony's finest officers staring at equipment that would never work quite the same way again, and a fundamental understanding that humans were far more dangerous as friends than they ever could be as enemies. The revolution had begun not with weapons or warfare, but with an engineer's irrepressible urge to fix everything she encountered, even if it belonged to her captors. After all, that's what humans do.